So what would happen if a team of highly trained soldiers came across some of the deadliest monsters to ever exist? After a training mission goes wrong, they have to survive the night while fending off attacks from a family of terrifying werewolves. And the battle only gets more extreme after every fight. We're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the werewolves in Dog Soldiers. This forest is about to turn into a killing field. Somewhere in the mountains of Scotland, a couple are sitting around the campfire watching the sunset, getting ready to head in for the night. They're out celebrating his recent promotion, and she gives him a fancy silver letter opener as a present. But neither of them realize that his career is about to be cut short. After dark, they're making out in their tent when someone starts unzipping the flap from the outside. All of a sudden, a massive hairy arm reaches in and grabs the woman by her ankle, trying to drag her out of the tent. The man tries to fight back, but whatever's out there rips her body completely in half, showering him in her blood, and the creatures howl as they get ready to turn on him next, making 2 down with 8 more to go. Okay, hold up just 1 second. Winnie the Pooh? Is that you? Jokes aside, we didn't get a good look at our attackers yet, but I've got a pretty good idea what was responsible. I mean, just look at the evidence here. We've got a full moon, growling noises outside the tent, giant hairy claws, and the strength to tear a person completely in half. Bad news for these 2 lovebirds because they just ran into a motherfucking werewolf. Now, even though they literally got caught with their pants down, they actually had a few seconds to prepare before the attack, but their lack of any reaction was where it all went wrong. Shining their flashlight at the intruder was actually a great idea because not only does it help you see who's there, but it can momentarily blind them if you shine it straight in their eyes. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone starts unzipping my tent in the middle of the night, the first thing I'm doing is grabbing the blicky. They might not have been packing any heat, but they actually had the perfect tool for the job, and that's the silver letter opener. Silver is one of the most well-known counters for any supernatural being, especially werewolves, because of its symbolic purity and its connection to the moon. Honestly, it really doesn't matter why silver works. I've just seen enough werewolf movies to know that it does. So this is a time when you need to let your own instincts take over. Instead of playing tug-of-war using his wife's body like a chew toy, this guy should have quickly reached for the blade and shanked that werewolf in the arm. It probably wouldn't have been enough to kill it, but it would have at least given his lady a chance to escape while he made a heroic last stand, or goes with option 2, using the blade to cut a hole in the back of the tent, and escaping while using his wife as a meat shield, because let's be honest, she was pretty much done for already. On the same night, a man named Cooper is sprinting through the woods being chased by a bunch of military guys and their dogs. He takes a few of them out with some badass flashlight moves before he's finally caught, and the officer congratulates him on making it to the top of the class. It turns out that he's a soldier who's training to be a part of an elite special forces team, but there's one last test that he has to pass. To show his loyalty, Captain Ryan here orders the man to kill one of their dogs, but Cooper refuses to do it. Furious, Ryan does it himself just to prove a point, and sends Cooper back to his original squad. But that was his biggest mistake. A month later, Cooper and his squad get dropped off somewhere in the forest as a part of a training mission. Their leader, Sergeant Wells, is on high alert because they're up against Captain Ryan and his squad from the SAS. But there's an even deadlier threat watching from the shadows. Joe here would rather be at home watching some football on the telly, but the Sarge reminds him that they need to take this seriously and takes a seat next to Cooper to check out the map. They need to get through enemy lines without getting caught, and he finds a spot where it looks like they can sneak by, but he has no idea that they're walking straight into a death trap. After walking for a while, the group stops for a break near the river. While they're resting, Cooper tells them about the couple who went missing not too long ago, saying how people disappear out there every year with no sign of what actually happened. After dark, they set up camp for the night and pass the time by talking about their biggest fears. The Sarge tells them a story about a time during the war, when a guy from his squad got a tattoo of the devil laughing on his butt cheek. A few days later, the guy stepped on a landmine, and the only thing left when they cleaned up the mess was the chunk of skin with the tattoo. Ever since then, the Sarge here has been a lot more open-minded when it comes to the supernatural. Getting creeped out, one of the guys starts telling a joke to lighten up the mood, when all of a sudden, a whole-ass dead cow crashes down from the cliffs up above, landing directly in the middle of the group. Shocked, the men jump to their feet as they try to figure out what's going on, but when Cooper goes in for a closer look, he notices something that's incredibly strange. The wounds don't look like bullet holes, they look like teeth marks. But no wild animal would do something like this. The men want to call him in, but Sarge thinks that it could be a trap. So he tells them all to hold tight until the morning. Meanwhile, somewhere nearby, Captain Ryan is busy looking for something with night vision binoculars. No idea that something's already watching him. One of the creatures rushes through the forest, and Ryan spins around just as it attacks him from behind. But he's too late, and it gets him before he can even take a shot. Okay, it looks like they've officially got company. The soldiers here haven't realized that they're in danger just yet because they seem to think that this whole incident with the cow was just some kind of mind game by the SAS guys. But I wouldn't be so sure when you look at the evidence. First off, the men who they're up against are elite professionals, and they would never give away their position all for just a prank. When Cooper looked at the body, he quickly noticed that the wounds were from animal teeth, not from bullets or knives like the soldiers would have used. Knife wounds would be smooth, while bite wounds are always jagged and torn, and it looks like Cooper here already spotted the difference. The only problem is there shouldn't be anything else in these woods that's big enough to do this. Like we said before, wolves went extinct in this area back in the 1700s, and there's no other large predators native to the region. Now, werewolves are a lot like real wolves, which means that they're going to have a massive advantage out here in the dark forest. Wolves see in shades of gray instead of colors, but their night vision is actually much better than ours. That's because they have more sensitive rod cells than color-sensitive cone cells in their eyes, and a reflective layer behind their retina called the tapetum lucidium, which greatly enhances their vision in low-light conditions. Even if they can't see you, they can still find you based on hearing and smell. Wolves can hear sounds for up to 6 miles away, even in the forest, and have directional hearing that allows them to pinpoint the exact location of a noise. They also have about 200 million receptors in their noses, making their sense of smell more than 100 times stronger than our own. This allows them to detect scents from more than 2 miles away and track their prey even when it can't be seen. Now, with that being said, Cooper and his buddies are making the right call by staying put for the night, even if they haven't realized the true danger just yet. Humans have survived in the wild for thousands of years by staying near the fire because the predator's natural instincts tell them to stay away from it. The light makes it much more difficult for the wolves to ambush them, and they can even use the fire as a weapon if there's a fight. As pack hunters, wolves naturally respect another large, well-organized group. By sticking together, the wolves might see them as a threat that's not worth attacking, especially because of their weapons, even if they're only loaded with blanks. For now though, they need to stay here, keep watch, and wait for sunrise to move again, and if anything goes wrong, just use the slowest guy in the squad as a meat shield while they try to all escape. In the morning, the group picks up the cow's trail and decides to follow it, hoping to trace it back to whatever was responsible for the attack. After a while, they're shocked to find more bloody chunks lying in the dirt, and that's when they see a distress flare go off in the distance. Up ahead, what they end up finding is even worse than they could have imagined. It's the SAS camp, but the place is a total massacre, with nothing left of the soldiers besides bloody piles of guts. Realizing that things just got dangerous, Sarge tells the guys to leave their blanks and pick up a real weapon from the pile, trying to figure out what could have happened. All of a sudden, Captain Ryan pops out from behind some crates, asking the men for help as he collapses to the ground, badly injured, with 3 huge claw marks ripped into his chest. The others try calling for backup, but for some reason, their radio cannot get a signal. While they're patching him up, Ryan keeps saying strange things about their attackers, but they can't get him to explain what he means. They only have 30 minutes left before it gets dark, and just then they start hearing crazy noises coming from the trees. Realizing that they need to get going, Sarge tells the others to grab whatever they can as they retreat back into the woods. Bringing up the rear, Bruce notices all of the wildlife suddenly go quiet, which is when he spots something in the trees, but when he tries to open fire, his weapon will not go off. Terrified, he ditches the gun and starts blindly running for his life, but while he's not paying attention, he accidentally runs straight into a tree branch, impaling himself through the chest. Ouch! Before the Sarge can get there, one of the monsters comes and tears the man's body away, making 3 down with 7 more to go. Crouching down to inspect the blood, he's almost killed himself when the beast ambushes him from the back, but he rolls under a nearby log and escapes just in time. As he's running back to the others, the wolf ambushes him from the shadows, but Cooper opens fire and scares the monster off. Picking him up, he makes the Sarge hold his own guts in while the two of them run for it, and they're able to make it back to the rest of the group. But it's only a matter of time before they're overwhelmed. That's when they spot a Jeep on the road down below, and the driver Megan here shouts for them all to get inside. Climbing in, she hits the gas just as one of the wolves jumps onto the roof. But now all the added weight gets them stuck in the mud. While she's trying to get them out though, the monster reaches in and starts trying to grab at them, but one of the guys uses his knife to injure its arm. They're finally able to escape, leaving the wolves behind for now, and the woman explains that she headed over when she heard the sound of gunshots. After driving for what seems like forever, they eventually make it to the only farm in the area, and she says that the owners will let them spend the night. The strange thing is, there's no sign of the owners anywhere, even though it looks like they were just here. The fire's still clearly burning, and there's even dinner out on the kitchen table, which can only mean that the wolves must have gotten to them first. The only family member left is their doge, Sam, but with nowhere else to go, the soldiers decide to stay here for now. Okay, it looks like they found a place to stay, but they're definitely not safe yet. Now that they have some shelter, they can regroup and get some ideas from everything that's happened so far. During the first encounter, Bruce should have never allowed himself to get split up from the group, even if the Sarge ordered it. The average wolf can reach speeds of nearly 40 miles per hour, while even the fastest humans in the world can only reach about half that. You have no chance of outrunning one, and the panicked movements only activate the animal's natural prey response, making you look like an easy target. In a situation like this, it's better to stand your ground, but if your weapon jams like Bruce here, you're probably dead either way. Now at least they have some cover, but this place won't be safe forever. They can't call for help without a radio or a phone, which means that they're on their own until the morning, and they have to be very careful about what they do next. The first thing that they want to do here is start securing the house, because they'll have better odds holding out here than if they take their chances in the woods. They should use heavy furniture, boards, nails, and anything else that they can find to barricade up all the doors and windows, especially the most vulnerable ones on the lower floor. Bullets may not kill them, but you can injure them enough to make them retreat. The problem is they only have a limited supply of ammunition, and they'll need to use it carefully. They should try exploiting the wolves' natural fear of fire by making torches and Molotov cocktails to fight back with. The wolf pack will try to pick them off one at a time, so they need to stick together to make that as difficult as possible. The best thing that they can do is fight from this defensive position and try to hold out until sunrise, when the werewolves will either morph back into humans or decide to go after easier prey. If all else fails though, they can still make a quick escape in the truck and use Captain Ryan as a distraction since he hasn't been that much help anyway. Not wanting to waste any food, the guys dig in while Spoon and Cooper try to get the Sarge patched up. They need a way to call for help, but Megan here says that they won't find a phone anywhere for at least 50 miles. There is a town 4 hours back down the road, but even though it's a long drive, Cooper's worried that they won't survive if they don't get out of there. So he takes Spoon with him to go and get the truck. Outside, it is not long before they realize that the truck is already destroyed. Lighting a flare, they spot the wolf pack slowly closing in from all sides, but Cooper tells his partner to hold his fire. Waiting for just the right moment, he drops the flare under the car and fires off a bunch of shots, causing the whole thing to go up in a big explosion just as they run inside. Just a second later, one of the monsters starts trying to force its way in through the door. And in all of the commotion, the dog even starts pulling at the Sarge's bandages. They're finally able to fight it off. Cooper tells the others to lock down the crib. As for Terry here, he tells him to grab as many pots as he can find and fill them all up with boiling water. And he's not talking tea time. The men start boarding up the windows and dragging heavy-ass furniture in front of the doors until the whole house is fully secure. The wolves haven't attacked in a while. But Megan here thinks that it's only a matter of time before they'll come back, saying how they're probably just waiting for another opportunity. Cooper decides to ask her what exactly they're up against, and she tries to explain that the creatures are actually werewolves. Bro cannot take it, even after everything they've seen, but they won't be able to deny it for very long. Just then, one of the guys spots a wolf in the tree line and just starts letting it fly without hitting a single shot. Frustrated, Cooper reminds him that they need to conserve ammo, telling them only to fire in short, controlled bursts. They still need to get the Sarge here into a stable condition, so they carry him up to the bedroom while the others keep watch. Meanwhile, the soldiers start looking for backup weapons in case their ammo runs out, finding everything from axes to a full-blown medieval sword. Outside, the wolves are still watching, and it won't be long before they strike again. By now, the Sarge here is absolutely hammered, from drinking whiskey to dull the pain, but it still isn't enough to help him once they start closing up his wounds with super glue. Shouting, he tells Cooper to knock him out, and it takes 2 punches to finally quiet him down. While they're finishing up, Megan explains that she's a zoologist who heard about the creatures and came here 2 years ago hoping to prove that they were real. She ended up getting her proof alright, but now they'll be lucky if anyone lives to tell the tale. Okay, this situation keeps going from bad to worse. Now that they don't have a car, it makes it even more important for them to stay put until sunrise, because trying to escape on foot is like pretty much impossible. The only advantages that they have are their high-powered weapons and their ability to strategize. So they need to pay close attention to exactly what the wolves are doing and carefully decide how they're going to respond. Now that they have them trapped in one place, they're deliberately doing things like running by just at the edge of sight, trying to make them waste as much ammo as possible. They need to remember that wolves hunt in packs, and usually the one you can see is just a decoy. But you really need to worry about the ones you can't see. If a werewolf makes themselves too obvious, I'd save the ammo and check the other side of the house instead, because there's a good chance you'll catch another one working on some kind of sneaky plan. Like, we just found out that Megan here is a zoologist, and not only that, but she's been studying these werewolves for 2 freaking years. This makes her a major asset for the team, because she has tons of valuable information that we could use in the fight. The first thing that we want to know is how many of them that we're up against. That way, we'll have a better chance of avoiding ambushes, and we'll know how many are left if we manage to take one down. In the wild, wolf packs are led by an alpha male and female, who are responsible for the decision-making and leading the hunts. Megan here has seen them enough times that she can probably identify the alphas, and if they can take them down, then it might scare off the group members and make them easier to defeat. Their superior hearing is for more than just tracking prey. They also use their howls to communicate and coordinate their attacks, but if we can disrupt this, then it'll be much harder for them to work together. The house may not have a lot of electronics, but they do have a radio, and the group could use this to create some kind kind of high-pitched feedback device similar to what the Abbott family used in A Quiet Place Part 2, overwhelming the wolves' sense of hearing and possibly stunning them long enough for an easy kill. The boys here might not think the whole werewolf story makes sense just yet, but like we've said before, it doesn't have to make sense as long as you can use that information to kill them. From the lore, we know that silver is always the way to go, so I'd start by searching the house for anything silver that they can use as an improvised weapon. Otherwise, we've got two alternatives that usually seem to work: fire and decapitation. Fire is actually the easier choice because, like we said before, they can use torches or even Molotov cocktails to hit them from a distance, and they can't heal their wounds if they're burned into ashes. Decapitation is a little more tricky because it means you have to get in close and be precise. The best tools for that job are going to be the axe or the sword. If they can get one in an injured state, then they can quickly use one of the weapons to take its head clean off, and then there's one less werewolf for them to worry about. Back downstairs, Cooper gathers the others around the table, reassuring them that they'll make it out alive as long as they stick together. They still want to know what they're up against, and Cooper lets Megan explain exactly what she told him. A few of them aren't ready to believe it yet, but she tells them to think about all of the evidence that they've already seen. She's been tracking the werewolves for more than a year, and every time there's a full moon, people from the area come up missing, with nothing left of them by the time that the sun comes up. It's a crazy story, but Cooper reminds them that whether they want to believe it or not, the monsters are still waiting right outside. This whole time, Captain Ryan here has been staying oddly quiet, so Cooper decides that it's time to find out what he knows. While they're questioning him, they notice a picture of the family over the fireplace, and Megan says that they've lived in the area for centuries. Cooper points out how the captain here is doing pretty well for someone who was just on the verge of death just a few hours ago, but he refuses to let anyone look at his wounds. Even drawing a pistol, he fires a shot just as Megan knocks the weapon out of his hands. And when they pull open his shirt, they can see that his injuries are already starting to heal. Cooper quickly tears up a piece of fabric, telling the others to tie Ryan to his chair. But just then, the power suddenly goes out all around the house. It looks like the werewolves turned off the generator, and they only have a matter of seconds before the next attack. While the others get to their positions, he leaves Megan to stand guard over the captain, telling her to take him down if he tries any shenanigans. Everything's quiet until the wolves start slamming on the door, attacking from different angles all at the same time. One of them even tries getting in through the window, but the soldier holds it back with several blasts from the shotty. Cooper and the men race around the house, holding the creatures off whenever they try to get inside, and he throws a pot of boiling water directly into one of their faces. In the dust-up, a werewolf rips Joe's shotgun right out of his hands and fires a blast through the window before tossing it back inside, but he's able to get away by distracting it with a grenade. It's going the down, and Cooper sees one of the monsters getting inside and has to hold the door shut with his own weapon. While Joe's trying to reload, he ends up getting grabbed through the window, shouting to his friends that he needs some fucking help. Rushing to the room, he grabs the sword and rolls over the couch, slicing off the monster's arm just in time. Meanwhile, Spoon finds a closet full of flammable containers, but that's when Cooper hears one of the creatures breaking in from upstairs. Running to the bedroom, he gets there right before the Sarge is about to be eaten, using the flash from a camera to distract it, and after getting free, Cooper and the Sarge both open fire, sending the other wolf crashing backwards through the window. For now, it looks like they've won the battle, but they aren't safe yet, because just when they start to let their guard down, one of the monsters comes back and pulls Terry here right through the window, dragging him to his death before the others can even react. That makes 4 down with 6 more to go. Okay, let's all thank Terry here for demonstrating why you never let your guard down when your back's to a window. They managed to survive the battle, but they took some losses and wasted a lot of supplies in the process. So they need to change up their strategy before going into the next fight. This finally brought up something important that nobody's mentioned yet, and that's the fact that Ryan here is definitely going to turn into a werewolf at some point. Everyone knows that when somebody is attacked by a werewolf and survives, they end up inheriting the monster's curse and becoming one themselves, which means that it's only a matter of time before Ryan here tries to kill them all. I would suggest taking him out now before that can happen, but another option is to use him as bait. If they make it look like Ryan's vulnerable, then they can use the camera flash to stun whichever wolf comes for him, and then use the sword to take off its head, which should help even the odds just a little bit. Megan also mentioned how the family has lived in these woods for centuries, and that's crucial information because it means that either they've learned how to fight the werewolves or they are the werewolves themselves. Either way, I'd check the house for any ancient artifacts that might explain the root of the curse, or specialized weapons that we could use to defeat them. If they run out of other options, then there's another plan that is just so crazy that it might work. Ryan here is turning into a werewolf, so if he bites them, then that should turn Cooper and his boys into werewolves too. It's not exactly the most ideal outcome, but everyone knows that the best way to fight a werewolf is with another werewolf. So if they're down for it, voluntarily transforming themselves could be their best chance at survival. Now that the battle's over, Cooper rushes upstairs to check on the sergeant, who puts him in charge of the squad just in case he doesn't pull through. They want to try and rescue Terry, but Ryan here tells them that it's no use, because their friend is already good as dead. The soldiers go back to boarding up the windows, not sure how long they'll have before the werewolves come back. Joe mentions that someone might have heard the explosions, but Megan reminds him that this is the only house for 50 miles besides her own, and it looks like no one is coming to save them, and their only chance is to make it until sunrise, but it's 6 hours away, and Cooper doesn't know if they can hold out for that long. The captain here thinks that they might as well just give up, but Megan snaps back at him to be quiet. That's when Cooper notices something strange about how they speak to each other, and she admits that they've actually met before. It was when they brought her in for expert help during their first mission. Right now, they're running dangerously low on ammo, with only a few magazines to go before they're completely out. And Cooper gives Megan a pistol just in case there's any more trouble. Outside, she can see the family of werewolves snarling at them from the tree line, but looking at the shed out back gives her an idea. It looks like their choices are to run for it as a group or send one person out there for help while the others stay back. And the boys don't like their odds that much either way. That's when Megan remembers that there's an old truck in the barn. She doesn't have the keys, but if one of them can start it, then they can use it to get out of there. Joe volunteers, but he's not gonna make it that far without a meat shield. So it's up to Spoon to distract the monsters while his buddy makes a run for the barn. After getting everything set up, they both drop down from a second floor window on different sides of the house. Spoon goes first, sneaking into the woods and lighting a flare before challenging the wolves to come and get him. The plan seems like it's working, and while the creatures are busy chasing after Spoon, Joe makes a run for the barn. He's able to climb back inside just in time, but the wolves are not done with him yet. All of a sudden, one of the monsters starts climbing up after them, and they have to use the camera flash to blind it while Cooper cuts the rope. In the barn, Joe gets to the truck and starts it without a problem, but when the headlights come on, he's horrified to see his friend Terry slowly being devoured by one of the wolves. Taunting him, the monster chomps off his head and throws it straight at the truck, and Joe puts it in reverse as he hits the gas, crashing straight through the barn door. Seeing that he's outside, the others start getting ready to leave, but somebody else is already looking for a ride. That's when Joe here realizes that there's a werewolf in the back seat, and he decides that it's time to go out fighting. But the battle only lasts for a few seconds before he's turned into a bloody stain on the windshield, making 5 down with 5 more to go. By the time that his friends get to the car, they're shocked to find the werewolf already feasting on his body. Spoon looks like he's about to get clapped next, but Megan draws her pistol and empties the clip, holding it back just long enough for them to shut the door. Retreating back inside, the survivors gather around the table, feeling more hopeless than ever, knowing that they still have hours left to go before the sunrise. Okay, well, so much for that plan, I guess. By now the soldiers are dropping like flies while the wolves are still at full strength. Every battle only drains their supplies more and more, and it looks like they're just trying to wear them down until they don't have anything left to fight with. Now they have to make the difficult choice of continuing to hold out here or to risk making a break for it on the open road. But after everything that's happened, one of those choices is definitely better than the other. Staying put has been the safer option thus far, but like we already said, it's only a matter of time before they're completely out of supplies. And when that happens, they'll probably be as good as dead. To decide what they should do, we need to pay attention to the wolves' strategy. Of all the places to be, 2 of them were hanging out by the truck, and that's no accident. You see, the first one was just a decoy so that Joe wouldn't notice the one in the back seat, but it's why they did this that's the most important part. They were guarding the truck so closely because they knew that it was the soldiers' one and the only chance at escaping, but they made a crucial mistake. The first time around, they just destroyed the truck as soon as they could, but this time, they left it running in the hopes of using it as a trap. And the plan worked, but they only got 1 soldier instead of them all, and Cooper and his team need to act now before the wolves have a chance to regroup. While they have the opportunity, I'd quickly load everyone into the truck and get the out of there before the wolves destroy it and they're stuck here for good. Just after 3 a.m., Cooper goes to check on the truck, but it looks like the wolves have already sabotaged it, meaning that they'll have to come up with another plan. They only have enough ammo for one more fight, but Cooper here is pissed about what happened to his friends. And now he's going from survival mode to revenge. If they can't beat them, then he wants to at least take a few of them out. And it seems like Ryan here still knows something, but he warns them that they won't like what he has to say. He explains that the military sent them in to capture the werewolf so they could study it, but they didn't realize that there'd be more than one. As for Cooper and his group, all they were was live bait, and the truth is that he'd been setting them up all along. Clearly frustrated, the Sarge walks over and slugs him after finding out that he caused his men's deaths, but when they lift him back up, they see that his eyes are turning yellow, and after throwing him across the room, he gets back to his feet as he's slowly beginning to transform. All of a sudden, he jumps up from behind the table fully transformed into a massive beast, and starts violently attacking anyone within its reach. Working together, Sarge burns him with a log from the fireplace while Cooper impales him with the sword, but he dives through the window and disappears into the woods before they can finish the job. Putting the pieces together, Cooper finally realizes that the owners of the house are the werewolves themselves, which means that they won't be giving up and leaving anytime soon. With almost no ammo left, their only choice is to start looking around the house for more weapons. But Megan points out that they won't have any silver just lying around. If that won't work, then Megan wants to try burning them. And Megan has an idea for how they can find them all in one place. As a wildlife expert, she's noticed that the wolves are exhibiting pack behavior, which means that they must have made a den somewhere nearby, and the only place that she can think of is the shed out back. Instead of trying to escape, Cooper decides to go on the offensive. They're going to use the explosive barrels to blow the barn sky high, and the Sarge starts making Molotov cocktails while everyone else gets set up. He's worried that the plan might not work, and offers to use himself as a meat shield instead so that his friends can get away. Pulling open his shirt, he shows that his wounds are already healing, meaning that it won't be long before he becomes a werewolf too. But Cooper isn't ready to give up on him just yet. Without much time, they go outside and quickly load one of the barrels into the truck. Spoon cuts the gas line while Cooper starts it up, speeding towards the barn before jumping out just in time. He runs for his life back towards the house as the sergeant comes out with a Molotov, tossing it to the ground and lighting the trail of fuel. In an instant, the whole barn goes up in a massive explosion just as Cooper makes it to the house. But this isn't the victory that they thought that it was. Instead of celebrating, Megan here only apologizes for not telling them the whole truth. She rescued them because she thought they could get her out, but now she's realizing that it's not going to work. That's when Cooper finally realizes that Megan here isn't really a zoologist at all. She's actually one of the werewolves, and her whole plan with the barn was only a trick. While they were distracted, she unlocked the back door, and sure enough, the other werewolves slowly emerge from the shadows right behind her.
Okay. Well, Coop, it looks like your girlfriend here turned out to be a dog lady in disguise. If I only had $1 for every time that happened, right? The only problem is her secret identity was painfully obvious from the start, and when you miss all the warning signs, there's really only one thing left to say, and I'm sorry, Cooper, but you just f***ed up. So let's go all the way back to where it all started, during the first attack back at the camp. These monsters took out an entire squad of SAS operatives before they could fire a single shot. We're talking about some of the most highly trained professional killers on the planet, with advanced weapons and night vision goggles, getting wiped out before they even knew what was coming. And you mean to tell me that Eliza Thornberry here has just been surviving among them without any trouble for years? Years? I'm sorry, but this lady would have been turned into a can of Alpo by the first full moon. Unless, of course, she's not being completely honest. And what do you know? It turns out that she was lying all along. I mean, who could have seen that one coming? Anybody? Okay, all of us. One of the most critical aspects of any werewolf hunt is figuring out who the werewolves are, and you can never rule somebody out just because they're still in human form. Instead of relying on their training, they put their blind trust into a total stranger who they just met. And they trusted her so much that they let her talk them into blowing up their only chance to escape. If you make it out alive, you better reevaluate what you're looking for in a girlfriend, because Cooper, my boy, you have seriously f***ed up.
The woman's eyes turn yellow as she begins to transform, but the Sarge puts one in her head before she can fully wolf out. The others run for the steps, but Spoon gets cut off in the confusion, forcing him to take cover in a different part of the house. Cornered, he starts blind firing through the kitchen door, but he quickly runs out of ammo and decides that his only choice is to knuckle up. Spoon starts kicking the wolf's ass with anything that he can find around the kitchen, and even manages to kick one of its teeth right out of its jaws. But even though he stabs the creature about 50-11 times, it only gets back up and tosses him clear across the room. This dude isn't going down without a fight, and he finally manages to take the wolf down by beating it over the head with a frying pan. But just when he's about to deliver the final blow, another wolf comes and pins him against the wall, and they brutally devour him right there in front of the family dog, making 6 down with 2 more to go. Upstairs, Cooper and the Sarge lock themselves in different rooms, with only a matter of seconds before the wolves break down the doors. Thinking quickly, Cooper kicks over the sink and uses a pipe to start breaking through the wall, while Sarge grabs some hairspray and turns it into a makeshift flamethrower. When he finally breaks through, Sarge gives him a knife to start making another door, and they both escape into the next bedroom. The men start quickly barricading the doors, but it won't hold out for long, and the Sarge tells Cooper to climb inside the wardrobe. As soon as the wolves break in, he shoots out the floor under their feet, and they both drop down into the kitchen. After seeing what happened to Spoon, these two decide that it's time to crash out, and Sarge here knows exactly what to do. Opening a trap door, he orders Cooper to take the dog and get inside, because he can already feel himself starting to transform. Taking the roll of film as proof, Cooper climbs into the basement while Sarge cuts the gas line under the stove. Taking out a picture of his wife, he waits until he knows the wolves are around him before hitting the ignition switch and blowing the entire house to kingdom come, all while Cooper and the dog take shelter in the basement. That makes 7 victims and 1 family of werewolves down, but the story ain't over yet. Cooper stumbles around the basement looking for a way out of this hellhole, only to come face to face with his worst enemy, werewolf Captain Ryan. Knocking him to the ground, the monster takes his time kicking Cooper's all around this small basement until he finally decides that it's time to finish the job. pinning him against the wall. He's about to stab him through the mouth with the sword coming out of his own chest when Sam the dog runs in and saves the day. Lucky for Cooper, he happened to land right next to the box with the silver letter opener, and while Ryan is distracted, he pierces it straight through the creature's chest. The monster falls over, but he's not done yet, and Cooper grabs the blicky and turns his head into Swiss cheese, finally ending things once and for all. The sun's just coming up as Cooper and his new dog step out from the destroyed house. And if he's learned anything from this experience, it's that he should have just become a veterinarian instead.
Dog Soldiers. Classic DVD rental joint from back in the day. And you know, we just had to cover it here on How to Beat because, well, that was absurd, am I right? That was really absurd. If you guys think they should have done anything different, let me know down in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. I'll see you in the next video and have a damn good day.